Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Frugal Noodle, the podcast dedicated to helping you understand money, finance, investing, retirement, early or otherwise. And in this week's episode, flashbacks. But as a disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor, simply sharing as I learn. All right, here comes a flashback episode, like the ones we know and love when we're watching The Office or any other sitcom that cops out on producing any actual episode. No, I'll try to make this more productive as a takeaways episode so it's worthwhile for everyone, new listeners or old. But if you haven't listened to the episodes mentioned here, please do so. You're not going to get everything just by listening to some recap. Can you imagine how lame the Roman Colosseum would be if they'd only read the cliff notes of the blueprints? So let's start all the way back to the first 5 episodes. Episode 1 mildly detailed my own discovery of the FIRE movement and my motivation, or as it's commonly referred to, my why. I want to be more than a voice in this show. I want you to know who I am as a person, just like you are a person. That way you know that any drastic change in your life to live simply or pursue a more frugal lifestyle can be done by you because it was done by me, a fellow person. Unless, of course, you're a porpoise or something, in which case I don't know how to relate the subject to you, but you can keep hanging out if you want. Porpoises are welcome. Episode 2 was all about how you can calculate your FIRE number. It isn't as complicated as you might think, so if you need to touch up on it, go on back and check it out again. Episode 3, the most listened to episode of the show so far, encompassing debt. And it's no wonder it's the most popular. Nearly everyone you know is in debt to some degree, and most people wish they weren't in it. If you're still in a debt-free journey or on yours, keep at it and keep listening because the subject will come up all the time on the show. Episode 4 was the stages of financial independence. We talked about how to identify where you are on your journey to independence and where you're headed. How to stay focused on the path and keep improving your position. Don't fret if you're just starting on the path. You may be further ahead than you realize. Episode 5, we talked about what a 401k is. This introduced different types of retirement accounts and investment accounts besides the 401k. And that's also another subject that comes up many times, and it's expanded on every time we bring it up in the show. Now, how the first 5 episodes helped to introduce the subject of frugal living, finance, and investing in general, the next 5 also continue to introduce the subject, but also go a little beyond it. Episode 6 was all about saving. If saving is just a savings account for you, then you're already doing it wrong. Saving in this episode refers to more investing than savings. Some of the really good savers are only stashing their money into a savings account, and while that's better than not saving, a savings account is really not the best place for your money, and we talked about that in this episode. Episode 7. The lessons of COVID. The pandemic taught us a lot about ourselves, our friends, family, neighbors, and of course, the world. I figured I'd drop an episode to share what the pandemic has taught me and my wife about finance. Episode 8 was the collision of love and money. And by that, I meant when loved ones learn of your new lifestyle, they may try to take advantage of your kind-hearted ways. The purpose of this episode was to make sure you protect yourself from that type of person and validate your right to say no and set up terms to your generosity. Episode 9, making sure you enjoy the ride. When money is involved, it's easy to make your vision cloudy and forget to take it easy. So you got to remind yourself to stop and enjoy the place you're at any given moment. Learning about investing and watching money grow is fun, but don't turn into a Scrooge. Episode 10, the first episode of the crypto series. Crypto was at a wild run at the time of this episode, and who knows where it will be in the coming months. I don't know that I necessarily arm anyone with a dangerous amount of knowledge with my crypto series, but I wanted to give listeners a spring into the subject if it interested them. The next 5 episodes bounced back and forth between normal investing and crypto. Episode 11 was the good debt episode. The question had been asked before, and I thought it was necessary to address it. Is there such thing as good debt? Most argue yes. I, a nobody, argue no. There is not good debt and bad debt. Rather, there is semi-necessary debt and unnecessary debt. Episode 12, Part 2 of the crypto series. an episode that expanded on the basics and history of crypto to detail where outside influences impact the markets. Episode 13, Lifestyle Inflation. It's been discussed in episodes before, but this episode was dedicated completely to the subject of how we wanting creatures will expand on our wants as soon as a financial opportunity to do so presents itself. Did you get a bonus? Blow it on a vacation. Did you get a raise? Add on another recreational vehicle. Finally paid off that truck? Gotta get the new one. It's a subject that I cover more and more as we go on with the show, and I think it's because we need to evaluate our consumption as humans. Episode 14, the third part of the crypto series. This episode further explains the crypto markets and details how one might get started investing in crypto if they felt inclined to do so. Episode 15 was calculating your net worth. People new to their financial livelihood often think a net worth is only for the wealthy, but it's not, and you can fairly easily determine what yours is. The next 5 episodes I took as an opportunity to get a little philosophical. Episode 16 was the subscription mindset. We fear the monthly payments of yet another subscription service, but what happens when we apply this mindset to that daily coffee, a car payment, or bananas? Listen to episode 16 to find out. Episode 17 was the environmental benefits of FIRE and frugal living. Buying things that last longer and buying less in general makes for less waste in your time on this planet. So the frugal mindset lends itself well to the desire to be eco-friendly. Episode 18 was about frugal vacations. No, being mindful of where you spend your money doesn't mean you can't go on a vacation. You can go on one as extravagant as you like, but if you can save money and decompress from the work week, wouldn't it make you feel regenerated and good about having more money to invest afterwards? Episode 19, Living in the FIRE Mindset. Apologies again for the congestion of this episode. The purpose of this episode is to point out that no one is born frugal or with a simple living mindset. It's either taught or stumbled upon and then heavily studied, or lightly studied, I guess. It's all about how you choose to apply it to your own life, if at all. Episode 20, Being Too Far Behind to Start Your Retirement Journey. First of all, no one is too far behind. It just presents more challenges the longer you've neglected your retirement plan. So episode 20 runs through a few scenarios that one might find themselves in. And our most recent 5 episodes are just blending some financial philosophy and applying some strategy. Episode 21, Involving Kids with Money. Teaching a young mind about how to understand and respect finances only benefits their eventual adult mind the earlier and more thorough you are about it. Of course, make it fun and adjust the approach according to their age, but this episode details several age ranges and ideas on how to involve a child. Episode 22, Tapping into Your Self-Sufficiency. We are the descendants of hunter-gatherers who spent an average of 15 to 20 hours a week to provide for their needs. Now we work 40 to 60-hour weeks to provide for our needs and unending wants. Episode 22 talks about how we ended up this way and how you still have the self-sufficiency sealed within you. Episode 23, If I Have Money to Invest, How Do I Start? A refresher and expander episode talking about how to and what ways a new investor can start investing. Brokerage accounts, ETFs, index funds, and other accounts and investment vehicles are discussed here. In episode 24, The Financial Minimalist Within All of Us. An analysis of the financial minimalism thought process, how it coincides with simple living and frugal living, and how one might apply it to their own life. And this brings us to where we are today. Episode 25, my ode to all the episodes before. Now, as the show progresses, it's still involved with finance. It's still involved with the frugal and simple living ideas that offer an earlier retirement if you choose to bring those into your life. But what I'm finding the show is becoming a little more is philosophy and questioning, why we do what we do as humans. It's getting a little more on the subject of how these tools, money and finance, has played in our lives and brought us to where we are. If you've been listening along the way, you know that my wife and I and our family are very involved in self-sufficiency, and we're working on our own homestead. And I think that's playing a big role in why the show is deviating the direction that it is. I will always make the show about finance, but I think a motivation that I want to instill in others is becoming more self-sufficient and stepping away from their wanting ego that they have within them and just satisfying the needing part of them as much as I can. Again, I still have plenty of wants. My wife does. We do as a family. It's just keeping them in check and not letting them get the better of us and our future, whether it be financial future or just our general happiness in our future. So I hope you've enjoyed the ride so far, and I hope that you tag along for more. But with all that said, I do want to announce that the show will be going on a break for at least a few weeks. I do plan to drop some episodes in the coming months, probably an every other week thing once I do start back up again. And the reason for that is that I am pursuing a furthering of my education to enhance my professional career. And in order to do so, I need to be able to step away from any distractions that I might have. And this podcast, because it's not actually part of my financial career, it's more of just a pleasure thing, a hobby. I enjoy doing it. I want to keep doing it, and I plan to. But again, it is kind of pulling away from me focusing on the furthering of my professional career. So I'll be taking some courses and stuff to get some certifications under my belt. Once I get those out of the way, I will return to the podcast weekly. But for now, I'm going to take a break, come back and do maybe an every other week thing as I settle into that regimen. And then once I'm done with all that, come back full time, at least as full time as I have been. So I hope you all understand that and, stick along the way. But thank you for listening to this episode. Be sure to follow the show wherever you get podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes, which obviously will be at least a couple weeks for now. And follow the show on social media wherever you wish. There are links in the show notes below. The music for this episode was produced by CARBS. Again, thank you for listening. This is Cody of Frugal Noodle. I will see you soon.